Hello and welcome to this Uncovering the Formula for Success. I'm joined by the CEO of CrowdStrike, George Kurtz.
Great to be here.
And from Mercedes AMG Petronas Formula One team, the winningest driver in Formula One history, Lewis Hamilton.
How you doing?
I want to dive straight in. I said, Lewis, the winningest driver in Formula One history. And George, I'm sure you want to echo my comments and wish Lewis well, but an incredible amount of victories and 17 world championships, an amazing set of results, Lewis.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been a remarkable journey with this team, and I think what we've achieved is it's mind-blowing, and it's going to take some time. I think still it's going to take months for it to properly sink in. It usually is the case because we just continue to move on to trying to raise the bar and focus on what's next. But I'm really proud of everyone and incredibly honored and grateful to be a part of this journey.
George, I guess you having competed in the Spa 24 hours, you're probably ready to jump into an F1 seat now.
You know, I'm so jealous all the time, but we'll leave that to the professionals, and it's just amazing to see what these guys can do. And again, congratulations to Lewis and the entire team. And it's just fantastic to be a small part of the success there, and we look forward to the future.
Can I ask, George, have you been in a Formula One car yet?
I haven't been in a Formula One car, but I'm looking forward to it.
That's got to be one of the perks of being such an important part in this team. You've got to get in one of these cars.
You know, I know a guy who can help me out.
And I'm also fascinated from a driver's perspective on what you feel your limitations are in the car, and don't hesitate to ask any questions. Ultimately what works for me as a driver won't work for you, but I could probably tell you how I got to a certain point.
We can spend some more time on your braking, because I think it's just unbelievable how you can balance the car. So
that started a long, long time ago, but yeah.
As I prepared for a chance to catch up with you guys today, I looked at 7 traits of highly successful people. And one of the things that really stood out to me and I wanted to talk to you about was about listening. Because one of the things it says is that a lot of people listen to respond. They don't listen to understand. How do you ensure you're still listening? You're making sure you hear the voices of other people so you can step forward.
Well, listening is really important, and to your point, it's not just to listen, right? You really have to have your ear attuned to what's being said and what isn't being said. And I think, for me, what I try to do is to make sure that I go way down in the organization and talk to people on the ground. Who are the people that are, changing the tires and making it all happen, right? It isn't always just management. There's everyone in the field is doing things, and they're much more attuned to what the customer wants. And I just talk to them and listen and ask a lot of questions. And I think the biggest area is not to just listen and sort of respond or have that natural tendency to try to fix something. It's really asking a bunch of questions so that you can really uncover what's happening. And I think that's, you just have to be intellectually honest. If you have a problem, you want to get it solved. You want to necessarily blame people, but unless you can get to the heart of it, you can never improve. And that's, our philosophy is always get better every time. Even when we're winning with our customers and beating the competition, we can never stand still, and we always want to get better and better. And unless you think about what your employees are telling you and really analyze and ask the questions, you're just going to be fooled into a false sense of security.
Lewis, despite being powered by Mercedes your whole career, to step away from McLaren where you were previously, and that bravery of stepping out of that, taking the risk on and bravery, I just wonder how you felt at the time.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was, I'd been with McLaren since I was 13, so, it was my family. And I was very safe there, but I think, McLaren had this amazing history. They had multiple championships. They were super successful. And I felt that I wasn't necessarily helping build something. It was already an illustrious team. It already had all that success. It had the biggest cabinet of trophies. And I wanted to go somewhere where I could help. I could be a part of building something. When I joined this team, it didn't have many trophies in the cabinet. It was on the way up. It was growing. It was building. There was more people coming, and I I was like, I want to go somewhere and see if I can utilize everything I've learned on all these years, the privilege of working at McLaren. Can I apply those learnings to a team that's not being very successful to becoming successful? And that for me, for sure it was a risk. For sure there was moments I was like, geez, I don't know when I'm going to win again. For sure I was like, I had to really analyze a lot of, the pros and cons. But for me, taking the risk, I mean, if you're not going for a gap, you're not, Senna used to say, if you're not going for a gap, you're no longer a racing driver. I think if you're not taking risks in life, then you're standing still. And so I could have stayed there. I mean, in hindsight, you look at, if I had stayed, I wouldn't have another championship to my name. I would still be one-time world champion after 14 years. So, things happen for a reason, one way or another. I'm really, really grateful that I took that step. I took that leap of faith. And, it's thanks to people like Nicky and to Ross and to Mercedes for, to truly believing in me.
Just so interesting, the insights. And George, when I speak to people at CrowdStrike, they speak with such passion. And when they talk about you really inspire them. And Lewis, it's the same for you when you're at the factory. You can walk round the factory, speak to a guy or girl on the machine shop floor, you speak to them and they'll say, oh, Lewis might not want it this way, he'll like it that way. And you can be almost 1,000 steps apart, and yet people still reference you. They still want to be on your journey. And I wonder what it is that you do to sort of set that up so people buy into your journey, or is it something that's unconscious?
I think it's probably part of who I am. It's, always looking forward, always looking, to the future and the vision and what we got to do. And I think you have to paint the vision and you have to, tell the story as you want it to be told, and then it will come true, So people need to know. And, a few people in an organization, it's pretty easy to understand what's happening, but, we're over 3,000 people. And we started it from nothing. It was a 25-slide PowerPoint that we started it with, to have 3,000 people in their family. So, the 3,000th person hadn't heard me tell the story when I was pitching it to our original investors, right? So you have to make sure that you paint the vision, but you also have the principles and integrity. And they know customer first. They know always do the right thing. We go out of our way to make sure that we do things the right way for our customers. And we're not going to cut corners. We're not a company that cuts corners. We're not a company that cheats. And, for us, it's, if you live by that, right, and you show people, then it just trickles down to every part of the organization. And that's my job, is to be able to set that tone for the rest of our employees.
How about you, Lewis? I spoke to someone at the team at Mercedes the other day, and they said, when Lewis is here, it really seems like he's at home at the factory. It seems like his work hat's been taken off. He walks around and speaks to everybody. But what I also see is that when you're there, it galvanizes people. That idea of, I'm making this for Lewis Hamilton. And it must be incredible that you can be racing somewhere miles off in the world, and yet there's people there making things for you at the next race.
Yeah, I was really fortunate when I was younger to go to McLaren, and I did my work experience actually at McLaren. And I remember seeing back then the people in the background who were working on gear, making gear ratios, building the exhausts, and knowing that those finished pieces would be on the car that I watched the drivers race with, from Mika to Kimi and Montoya. And I think always, for me, I understood that there was this large group of people in the background. And I remember those guys when I said at McLaren saying, I'm building this for so-and-so, and dreamed of one day having people like that thinking, I'm building this for Lewis. When I go to the factory today and I see, they're all really the unsung heroes. So I try to, there's so many people naturally and so many moving parts, but it brings so much warmth to my heart to see those people back there who are really putting in overtime to make. If you look at our reliability, we've had the best reliability. It's almost unimaginable reliability that we've had. That,
Yeah.
and it's down to all those people doing their job even better than good. They're exceptional at what they do, and it's acknowledging them, because they're closed away behind doors. They're not seen on the race weekends. So I try to acknowledge them from a distance, but it's my real privilege when I get back and get to see them at work, and know that when I'm on the track and I'm delivering a result, I'm doing it for that, certain,
Yeah.
particularly in every single one of them. But because I've seen that person at work, it makes it that much more special for me.
George, I want to jump back a little bit. I was going to say, talking about the formula for success, it's obviously not that easy. It's not one thing and a formula you put together. It's obviously a million small things put together. And I want to delve a little bit deeper into this. And in preparation for this, I watched a presentation from you 10 years ago. You referenced at the time that back in the 80s, there were 50 known malwares effectively. And so I want to dive back to the beginning, because we see the success you two guys have, and obviously it didn't all start at the top. It's a struggle on the way up, George.
It has been, and it's an interesting career that I had, and the twists and turns. I mean, my dad died when I was super young. We had no money, barely had enough money to finish my last year of college, and managed to scrape by. I got out of school. I got into accounting. I was always a computer guy, but I got into accounting. Got super bored doing that, and helped do a bunch of things related to automation, and somehow landed in security in 1993 when it was the early days. So I've been in it for a while, and it wasn't really fashionable many years ago. And even when I started CrowdStrike in 2011, what we were doing from the cloud and the approach we took, we had people laughing at us. I remember all the big companies. I mean, I worked at one of them and knew people all over the place, and they just sort of laughed, hey, that's never going to work. And ultimately we just persevered and made it successful. So, for us, it's really about protecting customers. But I think, if you do the right things and you take care of your customers and your people, good things happen.
Yeah, I think. It's amazing hearing from George. Some of the adversity that he faced and the struggles, which it's so humbling naturally, and he's very humble, and he's saying, I don't know, I never use the word luck. Of course, you need fortune along the way. It's a tough business already just to get into, and it's amazing hearing that you're talking about, people laughing, and it's the same thing almost as me when I joined this team, or even just getting into racing. People were like, that's never going to work. You're never going to do that. And here we are. And when I joined this team, everyone said, this is the worst decision I could ever make. Your career's over. And we've just won 7 world titles in a row. So, I think me growing up, naturally I started racing as a kid, so all I could think of was having fun and enjoying myself. But as I got signed when I was 13, and I started to realize, the work that I needed to put in, whilst trying to finish school, but also delivering on each weekend and not taking it for granted, because there was one other driver that got signed and his deal was gone. It came and it went. So to hold on to the partnership was not easy. And so, particularly at the beginning when my dad was working, crazy, of course, as a kid, as a 10-year-old, 13-year-old, it was difficult to understand because I'd not been in the working world. It was difficult to understand how difficult it was for him, but I could see how stressful it was for him when he would come home. I could see how tough it was wearing on the family, from the little that we had, from the weekends that there were weekends that we couldn't compete because we didn't have the money to race. So I could see that, and so I knew that when I did have the chance, I needed to knock it out of the park. And I didn't always do that, but I do more often nowadays.
It's interesting because if I look at you and your energy, Lewis, through your career, it just seems to me the more you've done away from track, the more energy and success you've had, whether it's skydiving or jet skiing or surfing. You get more energy. You fly out the blocks every time. George, is the same thing true for you?
It is. When you're so focused, on one particular area, your profession. Obviously, Lewis his profession is racing. Mine is is security and running a company. But when you're so focused on that, you need other outlets, right? But it doesn't mean that your personality changes. So, in my career, it's all about winning, helping our customers be safe, but it's also about winning. And I think that's one of the areas that really drives me is, we want to win professionally. We take it personally if we lose. You don't win every deal, right? Just like you don't win every race. And I think, for me, we've been lucky enough to integrate the car racing, which is a passion of mine, into CrowdStrike. We've got CrowdStrike Racing. We've got folks even outside of me, and it's been great for the brand. Obviously, we're part of the Formula One team, and what that allows us to do, or me personally, is it's a bit of an outlet, right? I can tell you, I'm sure Lewis is probably the same way. We can hear from him, but I've never thought about an email or a phone call or a voicemail or anything in the car because you can't. You're just totally focused on something. And for me, that's an outlet, right? And that recharges my battery so that I can get back, in the office and focus on winning. So it's winning on and off the track. And I can tell you one of the things that I always ask people when I interview them, we talk about winning a little bit, is what drives you? Is it your love to win, or is it your hatred to lose? And each person has a different answer, but it tells you a little bit about their personality and what drives them. And, for me, I hate to lose. I can tell you, I lose a race, I think about it for 2 weeks. Now, maybe Lewis he's better than me, and he's better than me in a lot of ways in racing, obviously, but maybe he's gotten past, if you lose something, you can get through it. But it's 2 weeks of just, man, I can't believe I lost that. And when you win, it's like, oh, yeah, I should have won, and that lasts for about a day. So it's those sort of things that drive you both, on and off the track, at least for me.
It's really interesting, George, because I'm very much the same. I think I've always been someone that has hated to lose, but I've somehow, I don't know, I can't really explain how, I've managed to find myself on the other side. So I love getting to the end of that race first, and that the happiness of that lasts a lot longer than it ever did before.
Well, that's because you never lose, Lewis. I mean, you had to shift. I lose a lot more than you.
Can I just say, it's been such a privilege to spend time with you both. The world is so busy now. We rarely get time for these sort of long-form discussions, and it's been such a privilege to speak to you both. And we started by looking back 10 years, and maybe we'll wrap up by looking forward 10. I don't know where either of you will be, but I look forward to seeing the outcome, because I'm sure the foot will still be down flat to the floor. Thank you so much, Lewis, George, for your time today. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you.